This show was created to educate and inspire our viewers to become better versions of themselves.
All right, you're watching the Power Hour. My next guest is no guest, actually. She's just a regular. If you watch the show enough, you know exactly who she is. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Heather Hollinger. Heather, how are you?
Good, really good. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Today is a very important topic. We're going to be discussing men's health. We're going to get into some reasons why men, such as myself, should get regular checkups. And we're going to discuss some of the fears. Let's start off with why should we get checkups on a regular basis?
Definitely. When it comes to men's health, it's just important as anyone else's health. And what happens is I feel like men sometimes consider taking care of their mental and physical health almost like a weakness, but it's really making sure that you can be fully there, enjoy the quality of your life overall, and not have it impact other aspects of your life, like if you are big into exercise, your work, your friendships, family, your partnerships, all of it can have an effect on that. So it's really good to make sure that you're basically making the most of your life in all aspects.
Right, right. And preventative measures for something that can possibly sneak up on you and pretty much wreck your life. You know what I mean? Such as cancer and any sort of illnesses may occur, and regular checkups can detect that and possibly stop that and help you out with that. I want to get into a few reasons why, because a lot of times we don't go see the doctor because it can be a fear of receiving bad news. We
Mhm.
don't want to hear, some sort of bad diagnosis, right? Um, and sometimes we believe we don't need it. We feel like as men we're just indestructible. We go to work and that's it. What are your thoughts on that? What are some of the beliefs you think that men fear? The reason we don't want to go to the doctor?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, it can be a fear of getting a bunch of tests done, finding out something you don't want to hear, or having it really impact your life or current things that you're doing. It's really like that fear of change and adversity because it might really impact how you're living your life, and you might have to make changes that you're not quite ready for, whether it comes from diet, exercise, some things like handling through medication and things like that, or you have to have constant monitoring, things that you aren't fully prepared for. So a lot of that is like the fear of the unknown, like what are they going to tell me and what am I going to have to change?
Yeah, yeah. I'm going to get into my because I have to speak for the men who's now. Here's the thing. I was one of those guys who were afraid to go to the doctor. I mean, I don't want to say afraid. I just avoided it because I didn't want to hear anything bad. It was only when things started happening to me physically that made me want to go see what was going on with me. Come to find out I had high blood pressure and all this other stuff happening. Now, what do you think about holistic healing? How do you feel about that versus traditional medicine?
Yeah, so I'm actually from both backgrounds because I'm doing obviously life coaching and then I'm also doing physical therapy. So I always think it's good to do conservative measures first before like just jumping into medications and surgeries to fix a problem because all of those have really significant complications and risk for even death that you want to make sure that you're exploring all aspects before you do that because
Yeah.
once you have surgery or do something like that your body is never the same or you might have a complication that will change your life forever. So I definitely believe in doing it through exercise and diet and different changes or through basically more natural supplementation versus like pharmacological means, like
Mhm.
prescription medications, I think that is always a better route to go, and it's always good to know where your lab value is at because when it
Yeah.
comes to men's health, like, testosterone can be really low and affect men physically so much that that's actually something I talk about with my clients. If their mental health is off, like, get your levels checked in and everything like that because it can make a huge impact on your life for the better if you realize that and make changes towards it.
definitely. Now I know taking blood pressure medication can, interfere with your sex life.
Mhm.
So my suggestion, you let me know what do you think about this. My suggestion is to see where you're at first. Go to the doctor, get your labs done, see where you're at first. And if there's anything that can be done holistically, try it. Because what happened with me is my blood pressure normally was like 170 over maybe 190 something, whatever it was.
Okay.
It was
Yeah.
extremely high.
Very
So
high.
yeah, really high. And for some reason, I just couldn't get it down. I was frustrated. I tried
Mhm.
everything. So I said, you know what? Let me try to do this holistically. Let me try natural herbs and whatever it is I'm taking, which I'll get into that later. Um, Now it's normal, 118 over 70, stuff like that, 127. So I'm good now, and I slowly took myself off of the blood pressure medication. Now some may say, well, that's dangerous, but I monitor it every day.
Mhm.
I monitor
Yeah.
my first thing in the morning when I wake up, I check my blood pressure, and that lets me know whether or not if I should take medication.
Definitely.
I drink plenty of water. What do you think? We see where our levels are first before we take on holistic healing?
So I think it's always good to like obviously if you need it to survive and you're like high risk, I
Mhm.
think it's okay to start with obviously first like having prescription medications, but then once you get it where you're like, okay, I'm not going to die like right now,
Right.
I have a little bit time to figure it out. Like I think it's always good to then go into other things where you can eventually get off those medications just like you did.
Yeah.
Like I think it's good to look into other sources like a big part of like blood pressure and cholesterol and things like that can be handled through a dietitian or even like going to the gym or changing your daily lifestyle, even just walking more, drinking more water definitely helps, and drinking less alcohol, soda, sugars. There's so many things that you can just take something out or change something and just switch something that it's really good to look at that as more of a long term cure for it
Yeah.
versus relying heavily on the medication. But obviously, when you are going off that medication, I always recommend doing it under the guidance of your primary care physician or cardiologist, whoever was the one that prescribed it, and just like make sure you're monitoring it really well, just like you said, how you're checking it every day. Just in case something goes wrong, like 1 or 2 days, you always can always follow up with that primary care physician.
Definitely. You definitely want to make sure you're checking it because if you're not and you think, oh, well, I'm good. Well, the one thing about blood pressure, it'll sneak up on you so fast.
Yes.
And before you know it, boom, you're on the ground or something horrible
Hmm.
happened. Another fear that men have is feeling embarrassed or uncomfortable, discussing personal health issues. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
Sometimes we just don't want to. We don't want to hear it. We just don't want to hear anything negative. Maybe busy work schedules can get in the way. So we find the smallest things to make the excuse not to go get a checkup. The smallest thing, and like I said, it can take a small thing to happen really quick that'll
Hmm.
put you in a place you don't want to be. You don't want to be. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I think when it comes down to it, because a lot of people don't want to see the doctor, and there is like basically white coat syndrome where you get scared and your higher blood pressure just being taken by a doctor. I think at the end of the day, you want to go back to like the value behind it. Like if you're going to the doctor, imagine that you could be adding more to your lifespan and the quality of your life. And so if you're thinking that, "Oh, I just feel, like, crummy, I don't feel motivated to get up," just think of what the positive outcomes of it could be, and then when you do go to that primary care physician, and if they're trying to recommend, like, more aggressive measures that aren't holistic, it's never a bad thing to ask them, like, "Is it okay if I do more conservative measures first, and what are all my options?" Because when you go through medical care, you want to have informed consent where
No.
you are completely informed about your care before you're agreeing to something. And that's huge that I have to ask patients about all the time in physical therapy and just discussing with them, like, do you know what happened to you or the surgery you had? And all of that, you wanna make sure that you have all the knowledge available to you so you can make the best decision that works for you and your lifestyle.
Yeah, exactly. Now, knowing your family history, your family lineage, and knowing their health issues can be very helpful. Knowing what your
Exactly.
mom or dad suffered from back, back in the days or whatever the case is. Because like I said, you don't want that to sneak up on you. So finding that out first and then getting your checkup, and when you see where your labs are, then you can make the decision what to adjust as far as eating. But I would suggest wipe out sodas, juices, certain juices, not all juices, but
Yeah.
definitely sodas. Wipe those out, and it helps. You know, I slowed up on bread. I mean, I still eat
Mhm.
sandwiches here and there,
Yeah.
but I slowed up a lot, and that's where my numbers
Mhm.
started coming down. So, you know, that's the key. Healthy living. I mean, now we all know that eventually we're all gonna have to leave here one day, right?
Definitely.
But while we're here, we want to be comfortable. We don't want to
Mhm.
wake up in pain. We don't want to, suffer from this and take pills for that. Then you'll find yourself taking medication for the medication. It's like
Exactly.
the more medication you're on, the side
Mhm.
effects. You're taking medication for the side effects of that medication. So
Exactly.
to avoid all of that, let's change our diets, drink more water, and pay attention to our bodies.
Mhm.
Anything you want to say before we close out?
Yeah, definitely. Especially when it comes to diet, if you want to make changes with that first, you can definitely go towards like lean meats, and then stay away from too heavy of like fatty red meats, butters, oils, things like that. And when you think of like what you want to eat with it, you definitely want to lower the amount of carbs and have where you are having whole foods. So, like going to the grocery store, buying complete vegetables, chopping it up yourself, that's always a more healthy way of doing it, versus anything that's packaged, frozen, things like that, that usually comes with higher sodium. So, just making sure that you're just going, buying it fresh, that's the best way to do it. And anything whole foods related is really good.
There you go. Now, last words for me is pay attention to your bodies. Go get checked. We're going to continue this topic more and more, and we'll get into some juicing next week. What we put in our juices and how we blend and everything like that. So stay tuned for that. Dr. Heather Hollinger, thank you so much for joining me again on the show. This is your home. We'll see you again next week. Make sure you watch the Power Hour right here on Soul TV.
Thank
The
you.
Power Hour is brought to you by Soul TV.